Hey guys, so in this video I'm gonna go over some stock Ableton Live plugins that you can use with your guitar. So a handful of those are specifically made for guitar, but there's also a bunch of different plugins you can use that are more general, like reverbs and stuff like that. Alright, so to start off with, I have my Fender Jaguar here going straight into my audio interface into channel 1 here. So this is kind of the dry sound, if you will. Really out of tune, as you can tell. So the first thing we're going to do is load up a tuner. So that's the first plugin we're going to check out. So over here I'm looking at the audio effects, so I'm just going to drag in a tuner, and just like that we have a built-in little convenient tuner to use. Alright, so after the tuner, we're going to simulate kind of a normal guitar chain where you normally go through some sort of pedal board, then through an amplifier, and then through a cabinet that gets mic'd with a microphone. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to drag in is a pedal. So the pedal, you have like 3 distortion-ish pedals in one. The overdrive, distortion, and fuzz, with some simple EQ and then a gain knob. So this is the dry sound, so I bypass the pedal. So if I engage the pedal with its default settings, we have a bit of overdrive, so I can kind of boost the gain here. And then you can play around with the EQ settings. Fairly simple stuff, so if you've ever used kind of an overdrive pedal. Yeah, let's move over distortion. Let me switch to a different pickup. And then we have fuzz. Alright, so next in the chain, if you remember, we go through a pedal, through an amplifier. So just like that, we have a thing called amp. And this just simulates various different amplifiers. You have different kind of presets here: clean, boost, blues, rock. This is clean. We have a little boost. Some blues. A rock amp. We have a lead here. All right, we have heavy. And then we have bass, which obviously is more applicable if you plug in a bass guitar, but I'll show you here anyways. And then for each one, you have kind of simple controls underneath: gain, bass, simple EQ again. So yeah, there's a bit of overlap with the pedal. So you could end up, for example, the rock here amp is already pretty distorted on its own. So if you couple that with the pedal and some overdrive, you can really kind of get dirty. And then after the amplifier, we go through kind of a cabinet. So again, we just have a thing called cabinet. These are very kind of self-explanatory, simple plugins. And that's why I like them. They're really quick to load and simple. They all just do one simple thing, so you don't have to mess around with complicated libraries or anything like that. So simple controls here, you can pick the type of speakers and then which kinds of, like where the microphone is placed and whether it's a dynamic or a condenser microphone. Switch over. It's a very kind of subtle differences. Switch to, yeah, I can barely even hear the difference. Maybe this needs an amplifier to kind of really shine. Alright, so that covers the 3 plugins that are kind of made for guitar, but obviously you can use any effects for guitar. So now we can start experimenting with some more classic stuff, like we have the echo plugin. So I'm just gonna throw that. We can throw in some redux, which gives us kind of a bit crusher type of sound. course, we can throw in some reverb, maybe after the amplifier. Another cool stock plugin for guitars is the looper, so I can just drag that in here at any point. And this just behaves like a standard kind of looper. So you can quickly create your own little effects group here. And what's cool about Ableton Live is that once you're happy with a specific chain, so for example here, let's say I want this entire chain to be saved, I can just select everything and then press Command G, and it'll group it all for me. And then I can quickly collapse it so that I have an entire effect rack here at my disposal, and then you can toggle each one of here. What you want to be careful of is kind of gain staging, so you have to be careful between each plugin that it doesn't overdrive or clip too much. Of course, we can play around with some of the other plugins, so I'm just going to delete this whole chain. So you have a kind of a dedicated overdrive. We have a chorus effect. There's also an auto filter, which is just the standard filter, but it has an envelope follower, so you can make it so that the louder you play, the more the filter opens, giving you this kind of auto wah type of effect. So to get that, you set it to sort of a low pass filter, maybe close the filter a little bit, and then you can increase the envelope contribution here so that the more energy your signal comes in, the more the filter will kind of do this and open up and close. And then maybe we can throw a pedal in front of this, kind of buzz it up a little bit. And you can change the characteristic of the filter, so we can run into like an MS-20 filter with some drive. We can also open the frequency shifter, which has a built-in ring modulator inside, which at low settings gives you kind of like a tremolo type of effect. Load up a flanger, give it some LFO. So again, you can experiment with a lot of these settings here. And maybe run this through a nice reverb. So again, maybe some of these individual plugins are not going to compete with something like Guitar Rig or one of those dedicated kind of guitar amp simulators. But what I like about them is that they're really quick to load because they're so built into Ableton Live and they're very minimal. So I prefer these when I just want a quick kind of distortion. I just throw in this little compact plugin, crank up the fuzz, and then go along. And they're also much more modular, so you can kind of experiment with combining them with different things. And they're much more interconnected with the automation lanes of Ableton Live. So you don't have to do any MIDI mapping or anything. You can literally just press A to get into automation mode, click on one of these knobs. In fact, I'll just show you here. Let's say I want to tweak this frequency here. I can just press B to go to my pencil, draw a little shape here, and then press A to get out of automation. So now if I play this, you can see that the knob is going to be changing for me. In fact, that example was pretty bad. But if I press Command 4 to remove the kind of jaggedy lines, I can draw something more smooth. I'm just exaggerating here to show you the effect, but that was a terrible example, but you get the point. You can really quickly draw very subtle automation in different parts of your song. So that's why I like the stock plugins. They sometimes don't sound the best, but they're very quick, they're CPU efficient, and they're very connected with the ecosystem of Ableton Live, so you can quickly just draw automation curves without having to mess around with the third-party plugins. So yeah, some pros and cons there, but hopefully this gives you a nice flavor of what comes with Ableton Live. But make sure to double check that some of these may come only with Ableton Live Suite, which is kind of the higher end full package, which in my opinion is worth it because you get some of the convenience of these built-in plugins. All right, let me know what you think. Let me know what your favorite stock plugins are, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.